What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 218, and we're talking behind the scenes view with Brandon Styll of Nashville Restaurant Radio. Brandon, thank you for being here.
It is my pleasure and honor, and thank you for coming on my show.
Yes, absolutely. And I love your background. I feel like I need a TV behind me with our logo on it. I got to work on it. I got to level up. I really appreciate it. Nashville Restaurant Radio. I was lucky to be on a couple weeks back. We had an amazing conversation, so I'm excited about that. And this channel, Best Served Loud, where we focus on storytellers, filmmakers, media professionals, fellow podcasters. And so Brandon absolutely fits the bill. And Brandon, we got a lot to talk about. We got to talk quick. We need to talk about restaurants. We need to talk about the humans in restaurants before we get to kind of some of that. Nashville Restaurant Radio. It sounds straightforward to me, but tell anybody who has not heard of it, who does not spend their time like you and I do, scouring the media for the good stories out there. What can people expect from Nashville Restaurant Radio?
You know, they can expect a lot of things that they would expect from your podcast. I mean, in all honesty, we talk about some of the restaurant business and the industry, but more importantly, it's about the people. The podcast was something that, and I was just on my heart and on my mind for many years. Since I was 20 years old, I always thought it'd be just amazing. When I got off of work, we all congregated at a bar and we told stories. If there was some way, I thought I went to a school called Middle Tennessee State University, which is about 30 minutes outside of Nashville. And I would drive to Nashville to work. And then I would drive back home. And I was like, God, if there was some kind of radio station I could listen to that had like people telling stories of their night, that would be so cool. So I've always had this dream to have a radio station that talked about restaurants. So that's a lot of the name Nashville Restaurant Radio is because we're in Nashville. I want to talk about restaurants and the radio. So it's not necessarily about, hey, tell me what your favorite appetizer is. The show really is about the people, the stories behind all of that. So, I mean, I joke that the Nashville Restaurant Radio is a we use the word restaurant as a Trojan horse to get people to the show. And then they learn something about people and emotions and feelings. And my goal is for people to hear people that they know, or maybe not know, but they go, oh, I know that chef. I've heard of him. And then when it ends, they go, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
About
even people that know them didn't know that, right?
Yes. And like you pointed on my show, it's even cooler when the person you're interviewing has that moment too where they go, I didn't realize that about me. Yeah. And they have those realizations is where you really feel like you've done your job.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. The point that you make is the relationships that we have in the restaurants are everything. And the relationships that we have that then go to the commiseration outside of the restaurants, that's where like the good stuff happens, the juicy bits, the conversations that happen post shift, just like really encapsulate many of the reasons why we do this and some of the reasons why we end up not doing this for sustained parts of our lives, because it's such a struggle and a challenge, yet we reflect on those moments. I really appreciate that. The name too, Nashville Restaurant Radio, is so on the nose and also so perfect because it's like, this is exactly what it is. And I thought about that when you and I started interacting. I was like, Best Served Podcast. I was like, what the hell does that mean? I was like, Nashville Restaurant Radio. I know exactly what to expect. And so I really appreciate that because you and I also have done a lot of consulting work. And we talk a lot with our restaurant clients about like, let people know exactly what to expect before they ever walk in the door. And I think you've done a really good job of that and being so focused on Nashville. What I really want to get into now, we're going to talk about people, restaurants, the scene, all of that, behind the scenes, all of that. Yet you're really capturing the heartbeat of a city. And that is a real challenge. How do you go about that at a high level? What are you trying to represent? What do you want people to know within Nashville, or those especially as a huge tourist destination, and that's struggling right now? What do people need to know about Nashville from within and from without?
I've always said Nashville is one of the most special places in the world because we have so many unique attributes. The city itself, while you can be downtown, it's bustling and you really feel like you're in an urban area. We have a professional football team who's playing this very minute right now. We have a professional hockey team. We have a soccer team now. sort of a subway. I mean, you could be in Nashville and feel like you're in a really big city. 15 minutes outside of Nashville, you can be on a canoe going down a river in this beautiful setting. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I can go to hockey games. I can go to different events, and I see people that I've known for years. I mean, there's a real small town kind of vibe in Nashville, yet there's also a very metropolitan kind of aspect of Nashville. And the people in Nashville, the original people in Nashville, we pride ourselves on being friendly, and we want this. There's an absolute vibe and an absolute culture in this town. We're in the South. We're not the deep South,
sure,
but we're in the South. So there's definitely some Southern hospitality that goes on, and our culinary industry is so strong because we're all. I mean, there's some people coming into town now, and there's a little bit of parity, but for the most part, everybody knows each other. Everybody's kind of come up together, and everybody is friends with each other. So it's a real camaraderie and a real feeling around town. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to encapsulate with the show is that I was in sales for 15 years. So 15 years in Nashville, 15 years ago, Nashville was a much different place. Sure. Right before the first economic downturn in 2008, there was just a bunch of growth, a crazy amount of growth in Nashville. And I was able to, I'm uniquely am able to spend time in East Nashville, and then I may be in Murfreesboro, and then I'm in Brentwood and Franklin and the Nations. I'm all over town talking to chefs and understanding, oh, in this part of town, you're doing this, in this part of town. So I was able to go from kind of area to area and spread the word as to what's happening. But if you're if you're in East Nashville, you don't really venture into Brentwood and go into the culinary scene and talk to people over there. There is kind of these pockets. So I thought, hey, look, with Nashville Restaurant Radio, let's take all of that, this friendly community of people that know each other, and let's strengthen that. Is there a way that which we can strengthen that and share everybody's stories? Like you said, we know somebody that you might not know this much about them, and you might not feel. And I did my first podcast on March 13th. So really I had everything ready to go, had the table set, just ready to start talking into a microphone. And then on March 13th, they canceled the March Madness. They canceled hockey. They canceled NFL, NBA. Everything kind of stopped. And I started seeing on Facebook tons and tons of posts from restaurants saying, we wash our hands here, come out and eat here. All these initial statements started happening that people were putting out there. And I had a conversation with somebody who said, should we be doing that? If this is a pandemic and it's going around, should we be making these announcements on social media that we do standard cleanings and come and dine? Will that age well? And in 2 months, if you look back, like, are we doing the wrong thing by inviting people out to our restaurants? And I thought, what a unique, I'm just going to start talking into a microphone. And that's when it all started.
I think it's great. Just just tell stories, be compelled to make, and then you figure out the rest later. You and I both have figured out a lot. We just, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We just know we want to share those stories.
Well, and I'll also add that, March 13th, we were 10 days removed from a major devastating tornado that hit our town.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was a tornado that went through East Nashville, went through North Nashville, a Germantown area, went all the way up down Interstate 40, and it hit another city called Cookeville. And I mean, just mass devastation. And the way that our city pulled together was magical. Nashville strong, hashtag Nashville strong. I mean, everybody pulled together. We have a big company. Well, it's not a big company. It's a philanthropic venture, Hands on Nashville. And if you're out there listening, we definitely need donations. Hands on Nashville is amazing, but they were turning people down after the tornado. Like, we have too much stuff. There's too many volunteers showing up. We don't know what to do. That's Nashville. That's who we are as a city.
I love that. Let's dig into that more. Who you are as a city. Let's talk about some of the restaurants. Let's talk about some of the people. You're a guide. You're very much thinking about, I get this too, and I know you get this all the time. Hey, I'm going to be in Nashville for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And you basically, where do I go? And I am sure that you're like, what part of town are you going to be in? What are you into? And it's like, you're like a human algorithm that'll spit out the best possible Nashville experience for people. I absolutely know that. So I'm coming to Nashville. Walk me through it. Who do I need to be talking to? Where do I need to be going? Oh, gauntlet thrown, Brandon. Let's go. Where do I go when I come to Nashville?
Yeah, I think that's to me, there's a million questions you can ask for that. But assuming that it's you, Jensen, coming to town, and you are a foodie, you're a chef, you understand the industry, you want to see amazing restaurants. East Nashville really is really kind of the cultural center, in my opinion, for really great food. It's kind of a more of a liberal part of town, but that's where most of your chef-owned, chef-driven restaurants really reside. I mean, and there's Germantown, there's the Nations, there's a bunch of them, but East Nashville, I really feel like is a jumping off point. We also have a restaurant called the Catbird Seat. I don't know if you've heard of the Catbird Seat, Max and Ben Goldberg.
Ryan is one of the most talented chefs in the country. So
the Catbird Seat is absolutely a place that I would say if you can make a reservation before you come, that's a once in a lifetime kind of amazing dinner experience. The original chef from the Catbird Seat has a restaurant called Bastion. It's in the Wedgwood, Houston area, and it is 100% tasting menu, just out of this world, amazing food, amazing experience all the way around. And in East Nashville, you have legends like Margot McCormick, who has a place called Margot. You have a guy named Jason Zigmont, who he comes from kind of all over the place, but he was at Nomo, he was at Per Se, he ran 5 and 10 in Athens as the executive chef for a long time. He is now the owner at Set Sun, another great place, tasting menu. It's in the Van Dyke Bed and Beverage. There's the Gulch area. There's a restaurant called the 404 Kitchen by Matt Bolus, who's doing a staycation series right now. That is, he's highlighting Andrew Zimmern's food. He just did with Marcus Samuelson. I mean, he's doing amazing pairings as well. But then, of course, if you come to Nashville, you got to go to Broadway. If you come to Nashville and you don't go to Broadway, you're absolutely missing out. So you go find one of those restaurants I just mentioned, go dine, enjoy yourself, and then retire for the evening, go to the honky tonks. And if you're coming to Nashville, you got to go to, really, there's 2 places that you have to go to, hands down, and that's Layla's Honky Tonk.
Okay.
Right. And then you have the Robert's Western World. Right. Now, these 2 places are right next door to each other, and they are the original kind of strip of honky tonks. They're next door to a place called Tootsie's, which you may have heard of. Tootsie's is okay. Robert's and Layla's, that's the original honky tonks. You go in there, they're selling boots on the wall. People are drinking PBR. There's 75-year-old women just going, dancing to a fiddle. It's exactly what you think when you think Nashville. Now, of course, the country music stars have taken over, and Blake Shelton has a place called Ole Red, which is probably the best place to go eat down there if you're going to eat at a honky tonk.
All right.
Luke Bryan has a place. Jason Aldean has a brand new place. It's gorgeous. Greg, Big and Rich has a place. I mean, there's all these different places. Those are just experiences, the live music. At any time you go on Broadway, there's at least, I think, 30 live bands playing at any given time from 10:30 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the morning, when on normal times, when it's not COVID times. But that's just an experience. That's what brings everybody to town. That's the excitement of Nashville.
I really love it. Let's talk about let's talk about Nashville hot chicken for a second. And amazing dish, iconic. It's been the iterations of it have been improved. They've been bastardized. It's all over the place. People don't know what's what when it comes to it. Yet it's one of those foods that's iconic. Like, you think of certain places. If you're going to New York, you're going to get a slice. If you go to New Orleans, you're going to get beignet and etouffee. There's just certain things, and that's one of those things for Nashville. So I want you to dissect that a little bit from its cultural relevance within the food scene, and then talk about what the impact that it has on the people who it's influenced, and how it is become, synonymous with certain people's individual names and just kind of the brand of Nashville.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I can make some stuff up here. It's like one of those things that's
right.
It's Nashville hot chicken, and I should have all the knowledge about it. In my opinion, it's spicy chicken.
Hey,
every time that I go eat hot chicken, I'm like, every time I go eat hot chicken, I'm like, wow, it's really hot chicken. It's just, I like flavor, and I like food with flavor. Every time I eat spicy chicken, I'm like, my brother is one of those people that eats fire. So you go to his house and he's like, here, try this. And you're like, no, I'm not going to be in pain for the next 3 hours. And that's kind of the lure of hot chicken, in my opinion. Now, Prince's hot chicken is the original.
Of course.
Right. So Prince's hot chicken actually has a James Beard Award for innovation for being the first one to really they create. Now, I wish I could tell you the year, wish I could tell you the circumstances around it, the cultural relevance, like you asked for. I don't know the answer. I've met the entire family. They're amazing people. Since then, you have Bolton's Hot Chicken, which is in East Nashville, as well as Prince's Hot Chicken, which got, I think it's torn down. The original Prince's is closed right now. There was a fire and a car drove through the laundromat next door. The original Prince's is one of the most amazing places in the world. It's in a tiny strip mall, and you would be like, this is the James Beard Warding place. It's literally, and there's like a thing written, like drawn on the side of the building. You would never think that it was this amazing, iconic place, but that's what kind of the amazing, iconic places are. Right now, if you come to town, I think the big ones, the places you got to go are Hattie B's.
Right.
Hattie B's is amazing. There's a line outside the door that is 45 minutes in the rain, sleet, snow, hail. Does not matter. There's girls wearing matching clothes and veils. These are bachelorette parties that stand outside and wait for hot chicken. I think there's 4 or 5 Hattie B's now. And then there's a place called Party Foul, which is a good friend of mine, Austin Smith. It's his place, and he does an amazing job. They're really big on hot chicken and boozy slushies.
Perfect.
I joke, on the side of his building on 8th Avenue, it's 8th and I think Division. He's got this big sign. It's a big neon sign that says boozy slushies. And no matter what time of day, no matter what the temperature is, I drive by that sign and I go, I could go for a boozy slushie. I don't know what it is about that word.
Flavor of boozy slushy that sounds just about right, just about now.
Yeah, and that's anytime, any flavor. That's in the past. I don't drink anymore, but
you're right.
It still tempts me every time I see it. So there's and every restaurant in Nashville has some version of hot chicken now. It's kind of a rite of passage. If you have a restaurant in Nashville, you're gonna do hot chicken, and there is a bunch of different places that do. I mean, there's hot chicken tartare. I mean, there's all kinds. If you name it, there's a version of. There's hot chicken ice cream. I mean, it's crazy.
Right. Has it become a caricature of itself?
I think to a degree. I mean, I think if you live in Nashville, yeah. I mean, I there's like this wave of innovation, right? So it starts here, and then once it gets to like KFC has a hot chicken,
right?
It's jump the shark.
Yep,
and
that's exactly what I was literally going to ask next. And that's such a polarizing, a contradictory thing when you think about the scene, because it is part of the lifeblood. It's one of the reasons that people are going to come, like a honky tonk, like Prince's, or hot chicken specifically. These are the things that create identity within there, and then all of a sudden they become again a parody. You jump the shark, all of the Fonz, and so I think that's an interesting dynamic. Yet you have to pay so much respect to it, and then you see within the scene, people within the scene are like, "I don't eat hot chicken. Like that's for tourists, right?" Yet it also is part of the reason that you have a scene and enough attention to be able to do the innovative, dynamic things that you do. So I really appreciate even the fact that you grapple with it, because I think it's an important thing to reflect on. So then what now? What now is something new, exciting, something that you're seeing kind of bubbling up in Nashville, be it a trend as a term that you may love or hate, but something that's happening within the scene that you're like, this is something within Nashville that's unique, that's special, that you are compelled to kind of be highlighting as a storyteller?
It's challenging to have a specific answer there. I think like any city in this world right now, we are all, the innovation is staying alive.
It's true.
There's no innovation that's bringing people that's unique to Nashville right now. I think every single restaurateur is trying to figure out how to not lose money. I mean, I think that's the innovation. If you're not losing money at the end of the month, if there's a green line on your P&L, that's the innovation, right? And I think that everybody out there is just trying to figure out different revenue streams and what to do. And I think that right now, the coolest thing to me is from things I'm recommending is ghost kitchens. I mean, seeing what you can do with different items that come out of your menu, utilizing DoorDash and Uber Eats and all these different delivery models to utilize to do ghost kitchens. It's something that's innovative, and I love the idea. A lot of people kind of hear the term ghost kitchen and they go, That sounds cool. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I don't like ghosts, and I think there's that term
Right.
itself. And once you dig in and identify what you're doing there, we had a guy in our town who's a writer named Chris Chamberlain. Was a guest host on my show a few weeks ago, but he wrote an article about ghost kitchens. He said, I'm on Uber Eats and I'm like, who the hell are all these restaurants? And he looked up at what's Hootie's Burger Bar, and there's 8 burgers on there. And he's like, why is it on? And so I did some like, what is Hootie's Burger Bar? So I looked back and I noticed the address is the same as Hooters on Harding Place. And they just created a burger joint called Hootie's Burger Bar. They put it on and they charged a little more to make up for the pricing. And they're just doing Hooters burgers out of there, but people see it and they go, oh, that's something new. I'll try that. And they're able to like double their burger revenue on delivery based on this ghost kitchen they created. And I went, okay, I get it. I'm picking it up. And I thought it was just a really fascinating thing that people, it's not new to Nashville. It's not a Nashville thing. But yeah, I think like anybody out there, we are really trying to stick together. We see it. I'm seeing a lot of pop-ups. I'm seeing a lot of chef collaboration dinners, you know, where I'm going to one this evening. I'm going to a chef's collaboration dinner tonight where, you know, a chef's moving his restaurant to an area of town and this restaurant's welcoming in to do his food for a night, to introduce his food to the neighborhood. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. There's no competition there. That's welcome to the neighborhood. We're happy to have you. Let's all elevate each other and put our arms around each other, because this isn't a time for competing. This is a time for collaboration and really helping each other succeed.
It's good because it was a somber note for a moment, and then I can just even sense your excitement, my excitement of things like this, because the restaurant business model has been so stagnant for so long. We've made these like incremental improvements, but we haven't really rebuilt the industry. And so there's been a lot of forced reflection, and it's been super painful. Yet those who are thinking forward, that are recognizing the need and the opportunity to make a shift in this industry, that we don't just put a different lipstick on the same pig, right? Like we just have to change. And so a pop-up like that kind of co-opetition where it's like, let's just bring everybody to East Nashville. That is our whole focus. And if that means that you're coming here and you happen to go to my neighbor's restaurant this time and mine next time, that's okay. But we have this scarcity mindset. We're always fighting for table scraps, it feels like, when, especially in the independently owned restaurant. So I appreciate that the pop-up is super important. So let's keep going with that. Who are some other people or some restaurants or some concepts or anything you're like, where was that 5 years ago? Where was that 10 years ago? Even though it's out of necessity and dire situation like it is right now.
Well, I thought it was really cool. We had a place in town called Urban Grub. And Urban Grub, throughout the pandemic, they did these kind of a staycation series, but they did, you know, you're going to the island of Balta, or they would do these, you're going to Quebec, the food of Quebec, that it was all food that you would take home and cook at home and check it out. But it's like, what an amazing idea. Not just, hey, we're going to create a meal you can take home and cook, but we're going to do these. Why don't you spend time in these other countries? We're going to do food from experiences. You're going to the places. Like I said, the 404 Kitchen doing their staycation series. They did a barbecue staycation series. They did Marcus Samuelson. The next one is India, the Taste of India. Vivek Surti, who owns a restaurant here in town called Taylor, which is amazing. He's doing the Taste of India coming up. We've got a couple that own a restaurant in Nashville called the Pelican and Pigs in East Nashville. Again, it's the Eater Nashville #1 restaurant of the year last year. They're doing the right thing. They're not opening. They just recently have reopened, but they did a pop-up called Lanyap Po' Boys. They're from New Orleans. So they did original New Orleans po' boys every day throughout the week as a pop-up lunch spot. Just swing in, we'll hand you your sandwich, you get out, you go. And I just, you know, those are people that are absolutely, there's just this crazy time. And I could talk about this for hours. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but people and how I think the major thing that we're seeing also, and this is a rabbit hole and I apologize, but is people looking at how they treat their staff. There's been so much to be said about racism, sexism, xenophobia, all these things that are happening that run rampant inside of our restaurants, paying livable wages. And throughout this whole quarantine and the layoffs, and then how much the government was paying people, and this argument of, well, people are going to come back to work if you have to pay them as much. Well, we'll pay them a little more and they'll want to come back to work, right? So I mean, there's a side of how we pay people, what we pay people, and then the costs that's going to incur on the guests. I mean, when you see restaurants raising their costs because they're complying with all of those things, we need to understand that there's going to be probably a 15% increase in what every restaurant has to charge going forward, just due to different costs in cleaning, costs in sanitation, cost to pay their workers more, cost for all of this stuff. That's going to happen. And it's like this, we live in this world that's cyclical right now, where I think things are starting to happen. We have all these demands and all these wants, and then all of a sudden it gets back to, oh, we're charging X amount for a hamburger. Then everybody goes crazy and go, oh, I thought you wanted all of these 7 things in my restaurant. Now I have to charge $19 for the hamburger. You can't, like, all of that stuff happens. So, I mean, I think that one of the things I want to champion for is, do all of that stuff. Treat people the right way. That doesn't cost anything. But paying people more and respecting them and spending the time and energy to go through leadership trainings and staff trainings and building your culture does cost more. And that on the guest has a responsibility too. The guest has a responsibility to treat the restaurants with respect, treat servers with respect. Stop leaving 1-star reviews in the middle of a pandemic because a place you didn't like for whatever. I have a TikTok page where I have restaurant owners reading 1-star reviews.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
It's great. I have.
So go to TikTok, Nashville Restaurant Videos.
Yes.
My chefs reading 1-star reviews. And one of them is a chef who got a 1-star review because the lady went online to place an order at 10:30 and she couldn't place the order because they're not open. Like, the restaurant's not, you can't place the order before you're open. And then she said, and she goes, and I'm fine if they don't take orders before they're open, but they're out of brisket. And this is irresponsible. And she, the 1-star, it's like, we have plenty of brisket. We're just not fucking open.
Seriously.
Like, how do you anticipate, like, we're not going to, this is Shane Nasby at Honey Fire Barbecue. If you come to Nashville, barbecue is another thing you've got to try. Martin's Barbecue, Peg Leg Porker. These are legit local people. You got to go eat there. Honey Fire in Bellevue is fantastic. Go check out Shane reading this comment. But it's like, really, they were in the middle of a pandemic. You want to place an order before the people are open. They don't do it. So that's a 1-star review. This is this guy's hopes and dreams and prayers with his wife and kids. We're going to put this thing together. And your dumbass gives them a 1-star review because they're not even open. Like, it's like people, the guests have to get it together too. And it drives me crazy. So I like to see both sides of it. And I know chefs can't say these things. Restaurant owners can't go and say, damn it, you guys need to figure your shit out because we're working really hard and there's a bunch of fingers pointed at us.
Right.
But there's some times that the guests need to look in the mirror and go, how can we be better guests? Maybe we should just wear a mask when we walk in the front door and not complain about it. They're going through enough just coming to work. Maybe we should try and all work together to be friendly and happy people. And there you go. I'll step off my soapbox.
That was it. Mic drop. The episode's over. Fade to black. Oh, perfect. That was perfect. I really appreciate that. You win probably for most restaurants and humans' names dropped in a 30-minute episode. I am so grateful for that. That's why I was excited to have you on the show. It's so important, and I can see why
you did ask for that.
I want it. Andrew is behind the scenes right now, just dropping so many links, and we have so many people to tag on social media. I appreciate that. That's what we want, because everybody's story is a part of our story. The more we get out of our silos of our 4 walls and get stuck in the kitchen or behind the bar or in your restaurant and look around and pay attention to what's happening around East Nashville and everywhere else within your neighborhood, within your city, within your state, within the country, it matters. It really, really matters, Brandon. And I'm so grateful that you're out there hustling for everybody and communicating for Nashville. And I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, man. Ditto for yourself. I mean, I enjoy listening to your podcast. I enjoy listening to your perspective. I love people. I love things. I'm a communicator, but I love getting into the nitty gritty of all of the stuff, the behind the scenes, what you see out there on a regular basis. And I could talk about it all day long. I could do that. And there's so many things we could do
that Titans game, my friend. Appreciate you being on. Truly, truly. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
All right, cheers. Brandon Styll, everybody. Awesome. I even like he's a great showrunner because you could see there he tied it back to the name of the episode itself, which is just a perfect, flawless technique there for sure. So, yeah, again, Best Served Podcast 218. And he, as he mentioned, behind the scenes view. Nashville Restaurant Radio, absolutely. If you're there, you need to check it out. I like that he's speaking to the people within the industry, within the city, also to the people that are butts and seats and people coming to town. And so I appreciate that perspective, that whole look at Nashville, the heartbeat of that city. It really, really matters. All right, that is it for today's episode. Thanks to all of you, as always, for tuning in. Cheers.